So far we've created intermediate code. That is code that partially does what we want, but doesn't really do the way we want the final code to work. It doesn't act that way. And in the intermediate code, we've created a finite state automaton class that reacts to the two radio buttons and the checkbox. And we've created a treeView that just gets filled in with fixed data. But the way we ultimately want the tree to act is if we expand the tree, by default now genre is selected. If we expand the tree, we see all the genres. But then if we click on the unseen button, we just see the genres that have unseen DVDs in them. And if we click on the location button, since both location and the unseen box are checked, we only see the locations that have unseen DVDs in them. And if we unclick the unseen box, now we see all the locations, since locations clicked and unseen is unchecked. And the way we accomplish this is we don't add any new code, but we modify the code that we've already created. Since we've created the infrastructure for the final code, and we tested all the interfaces with stub routines to make sure this infrastructure works properly. So now in the invoke tree finite state automaton, to a large extent we've just moved the code up from the before expand. And the before expand just printed out a fixed list of genres. But now we use the interface we created to the finite state automaton class, and we check the state changed of the radio location, radio genre, and checked unseen. And if these haven't changed, we basically do nothing. We just fall through and return in the routine. And the reason we do nothing is the tree is already filled out the way we want it to be filled out. It's filled out in a way that reflects the radio buttons and the check box, the unseen checkbox. But if this has changed, we create a MySql data reader, MDR. We clear out all the tree nodes by setting node selected equal to the top tree node and calling nodes.clear. And then we go into a try catch finally blocks where we say the SQL is equal to get SQL for state. And needless to say, this is radically changed. This is one of the two routines that's radically changed. First, this routine we're looking at, and the get SQL for state routine within the finite state automata, which now returns real SQL. So we create a MySql command using this returned SQL and the shared connection, and we populate a MySQL data reader object with the command.executeReader. And then we need to check if it's location state or a genre state. And the location state can be either location state all if the unseen is unchecked, or it can be location state unseen if the checkbox is checked and location state is selected. So if we do have a location state, we actually have a while loop that goes through and looks at every record in the MySQL data reader with a .read command, and we populate the treeView with records from the data reader. So we have MDR square bracket quotation mark name square bracket, and that gets assigned to the actual tree, and we get the location ID and assign that to a local variable called NID, and then we assign the child node to node selected.nodes.add, using the name that we got from the database table to add that to the tree, and remember the node, a reference to that node, so we can use that node.tag to add the ID. So the ID and the name are now associated with each other in the tree, which will be important in the next video. And if it's not a location state, it must be a genre state. So essentially we do the identical thing. We put the name in the added node, but this time we're going to get the genre ID, which is why we have to have this check for location, because we're going to get an error if we try and reference a genre ID when we're in location, and we're going to get an error if we try and reference a location ID when we're in genre. So we go through and populate the tree with genres if we're in genre mode. And as usual, if this code doesn't work for some reason, we do a catch with a MySql exception and pop up a message box that shows the error we got. And regardless of whether the try or catch works, we're going to do a finally that closes the data reader. So the only really remaining question of how we got this to work is how did we modify the getSQL for state. And it's trivial for the all state because we're just doing a select of everything from location in the case of the location all state, and select everything from genre in the case of the genre all state. But in the case of unseen, remember we've got two different tables. The unseen is saved in the DVDs table, and the location is saved in the location table, the location name. So we now need to do a join of DVDs to location and give the table aliases of D and L. And we do the join on d.locationid equals l.locationid. So we connect those two tables together where, say, location ID is 3 in DVDs and also 3 in the location table. So that gets us the right name. And we do this where the d.seen, which is the variable that contains whether we've seen the DVD or not, is not true. So we have a not, the SQL equivalent of exclamation mark in C#. So we say where not seen, and then we order this by l.name. And we do essentially the identical thing with genre unseen, where we join the genre table based on genre ID, and we do this only for records where it's not seen, and we order this by genre name, so everything's nicely in alphabetical order. So if we select the tree and select events and look at the before expand event, now all we do in the before expand event is call invoke tree finite state automaton, which is also all we do in the two button and checkbox events. So invoke tree finite state automaton now controls everything and does it using the finite state automata class, which varies the SQL. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video and learned a lot, and I'd appreciate it if you'd subscribe.